Welcome, Wise Chat. It is Monday, July 22nd. Sorry to hear you got a case of the Mondays there. Michael will be with us in a moment. Producer Henry here saying, like the stream, lick the stem, get comfy. We'll be with you in just a moment. I'm feeling very proud to be an American because of this weekend. I don't know about y'all, but Punk the God took the Street Fighter top spot at EVO. It is the first time in like 20 years an American has done something like that. So amazing. I don't know if anything else important or impactful to the country happened over the weekend that can top that. Michael will be with us in a moment.
Ooh, baby boy. It's July 22nd. We're here on Wisecrack Live. I'm in a new corner of my palatial home. In case anyone was wondering, I do live in a mansion. The easiest way to become a bazillionaire is to make YouTube videos. The amount of money in YouTube is crazy. I can't believe everyone's not doing it. So today's stream is going to be in the top 10 ways that you can start a side hustle YouTube channel that'll help you grind and climb the ladder. It's brought to you by our friends at BlackRock Capital. With BlackRock, you can no, that's not what we're doing. But it was fun to talk about for a second. But what's up, guys? I'm Michael Burns. I'm here with producer Henry. Peter went to the Hollywood Bowl on Saturday. What a great place. We're doing Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. This is where we respond to the ongoing global pandemic of everyone feeling like ass on Mondays, whether you feel like ass physically, psychologically, existentially, financially. We often don't feel good on Mondays. I had a really good night's sleep last night, and I just still feel like, why are we doing this? But I also did yesterday. Yeah, Bailey says rise and grind kings, and I agree. Like the stream if you're here. I yesterday found myself, and I don't think this counts as getting coconut pilled, but I found myself obsessively looking at Twitter yesterday while bouncing between cable news networks, just wanting to hear all the scuttlebutt. And I was watching golf on a Sunday morning, as I often do. And right as the golf tournament ended is when Joseph Robinette Biden posted his breakup letter with America. So it was a wild day, and it's one of those things where every week it's like, okay, we got to stop talking about political related things and current events on the stream. But then, guys, unprecedented things keep happening, and we can't not talk about unprecedented events. And one of those unprecedented events is that a sitting, incumbent president is stepping down in the middle of his reelection bid. So this is something that hasn't happened. The last time it did was a long time in the 50s, I think. I forget all the details because I don't know anything because I'm a dumb smart person, as we talked about last week. So hard to not talk about. And yeah, watching the news and all this stuff, I get caught up in it, but at the same time, I'm aware that it's all just Jackson's here. Jackson has been here in a while. We love Jackson. If you do not subscribe to Skip Intro, what are you doing? And Jackson's bringing in his buzzing K-Hive energy. Good reminder for us to have Jackson back on the stream sometime, because he's great to have on the stream. Even though not the most trouble we ever got in, but the one time it was just Jackson and I on the stream, we got busted. We got busted by the cops. Jackson, the Lord of propaganda, has to love the future potential cop in chief. But it's just been a crazy weekend because of all of this. So please do like the stream if you care about the future of democracy. So we're gonna. Well, I'll tell you a thing we're going to talk about today, which relates to our stupid thumb and title. And I say stupid because I came up with them. Olivia, our wonderful producer, made them. But our buddy Jimmy Concepts, James Lindsay, one of the weirdest people in the world, a swordsman of the mind, had this insane thread yesterday about how like Kamala Harris, her like use of language, and she's very verbose and says goofy stuff, but how it secretly indicates that she is a Marxist Satanist. Now, somehow this has become the new thing for people like Jimmy Concepts and Jordan Two Jacket Peterson, that Marx is a Satanist, and then all these people are Marxist Satanist. And then my favorite thing is that when people claim that all these career-long neoliberal Silicon Valley business-friendly police state supporting capitalism licking politicians are somehow Marxist, when every single thing about their ideological activity, their voting records, what they've done with policy is so firmly neoliberal. It's so funny to, have these people then be called like Marxists or whatever. So I love it, but it's also, it sucks because, as always, I don't think anyone should be a Marxist, a Hegelian, a communist, a Kantian, a Kierkegaardian, an existentialist, a DQ lifestyle liver, a deadhead, a pothole construction worker, a Sartrean existentialist, a Fichtean subjectivist. But I want you to understand stuff, So if we're gonna, there's so many good reasons that you could critique someone like Kamala Harris, let's say, for example, but the idea that it's because she's a secret Marxist is so dumb, and it makes me sad that people fall for it. So talking about it has two benefits. I would say the two benefits of talking about it: one, it's funny to talk about insane things because we need some sort of psychic release from the, I guess, like psychosis-inducing state of our political and economic life. The other thing is, I don't know, just in case someone on ye old internet who sees some Jimmy Concepts meanderings and thinks maybe there's something there. Maybe they roll by us and they can be like, oh, those dudes seem more chill. And they said that what he said doesn't make sense. So there you go. Whatever. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what your symptoms are on this Monday. Now, I know on Mondays when I start slow, I like to get up and get down. And a way I do that is with coffee. So just a reminder, we have a coffee partner on Case of the Mondays on Wisecrack Live. They're called Yes Please. I'll show you what a bag of Yes Please coffee looks like. We can maybe pull up their website or something as well, only if we have it ready to go. No worries if not. This is Yes Please coffee. This is their espresso roast. It's very good. It's made by a small team of people here in Los Angeles, California. They're an independent coffee roaster. They source their stuff ethically. They treat their workers right. And they just make really good coffee. If you order it via us, you get 20% off. If you order a subscription, you get their own little zine as well. I know I push the zine a lot. For many of you, you're like, it's a piece of paper with words on it. I just want my beans. But I like stuff like that. Maybe as an old millennial, I appreciate zines, concert posters, things of a bygone era. But yeah, so that's Yes Please. Check it out if you are a coffee head. It's a great way to support the show. And that's me, Espresso. As an old millennial, I'm also going to admit that I don't know what brat is. I know that Charlie XCX is a singer. I know that her most recent album is called Brat. But I am pretty unaware of the reasoning for calling things brat. And I know that Charlie XCX said that Kamala is brat. And some people liked it, some people didn't like it. I know someone said bold move with the mirror. I know, I feel like if I was looking at pornography right here, you would know. That'd be the funniest thing ever. If you guys look down and I'm just throwing money on OnlyFans or something. But as you can see, if you're looking very carefully, what I have on my screen is YouTube, and there's the chat right there, and so I'm not too worried as of right now. But okay, cool. So maybe that's all I understand, and that's all I need to know about what is brat. Is can you guys let us know? Is producer Henry brat? I want to maybe figure that out. So please let us know in the chat if producer Henry is in fact brat. So let's start. I mean, we should just dive right in. I will say another thing. Big day for us because we have a video coming out today at 11, and this is important. Video is a co-production with Yellow Dot Studios. Yellow Dot Studios is a production house run by Adam McKay, the guy that made movies like The Big Short and Don't Look Up and Anchorman and Talladega Nights and Step Brothers. The goal of which is to use comedy, entertainment, media, things like that to talk about the climate crisis. So we made two things with them. We have a video essay, and normally our videos come out on Fridays, but today we have two videos this week. We have a video coming out today. It's on climate and capitalism and the ways in which people propose we can respond to the climate crisis within a capitalist system. We talk about Koei Saito in the video. It's the Japanese philosopher I've been talking about recently. So I think you'll be excited about that. Then I did an interview with their director, and that's going to be over on their YouTube channel. Now, later in the stream, their head of digital media, Elijah Zarlin's going to come on. We'll chat for a bit. At the end of the stream, we're going to give you the link. It's currently unlisted. We're going to give you the link to that video so you can watch it before it goes officially live. You're going to be the first ones to watch it. So please stick around for that. We're really excited today. If you don't subscribe to Yellow Dot, please do. And then later today, you're going to watch the video on our channel, and then the second part of that will be on their channel. When you go there, leave some comments, let them know we sent you. We're trying to build a fun partnership with them, so we would love for you to help us do that. So let's start with Jimmy Concepts, James Lindsay, anti-communist, and I guess we should probably watch a little bit of the video he posted just for context. Was that fair? Yeah. Hopefully everyone's doing well. And please do let us know in the chat, is producer Henry brat? Okay, people are saying that Henry is brat. We're getting some brat energy here. I don't know what brat is, but I'm very confident that I'm not brat.
I know less about it than you, but I'm going to remain ignorant, and I think that somehow perpetrates the attitude. So yeah.
Oh no, does not knowing what brat is make one more brat? Fuck. We might have to figure this out. Okay, guys. So great. So we're going to talk about this thread. It's stupid. It's from James Lindsay. If you don't know who James Lindsay is, I'll just give a little bit of background. I'm sorry you have to know this. So he's this dude, and he has a PhD in math. And then he got really into the idea that critical theory and Marxism are ruining America and they're ruining universities. He wrote a couple books. One is on race Marxism. It's really stupid. Another one is on postmodernism. It's really stupid. He makes podcasts and videos and all this sort of stuff. He once said that I think he said that I had a unmanly voice when we criticized him in a video. Yeah, what did he say about my voice? That it was squawky or something? I don't know. And then he went and played with a sword, and I went and had sex. I don't know if that really happened. But the sword thing happened. I probably didn't have sex. But he's gotten very obsessed with a lot of figures that are important to people that study contemporary philosophy and political theory. He did a bunch of stuff on Hegel that was wrong. I did a video on it a few years ago. He's talked about critical theory in ways that shows a lack of understanding, and recently he's talked more about Marxism and communism in a way that exhibits a lack of understanding of those texts and concepts. Yesterday, he went a little bit brat in talking about Kamala Harris and her being Marxist and Luciferian. So we'll do our high-tech thing of counting to 3. We'll watch a little bit of this video that he uses to start, and then we're going to go through this thread and see how long it takes for all of our brains to turn into piles of heaping shit. So let's hit play in 3, 2, 1.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know?
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened
Wait, this is
by
like
what
funny
has been.
to hear her
What
say it over and
can
over.
be unburdened by what has been.
Oh
What we
no, she's
can
Baphomet.
see, what we believe can be, unburdened by what has, what can be,
She just needs like a new slogan.
unburdened by what has.
It's a branding
What
problem.
can be unburdened
Tell
by
Bill.
what has been.
This-
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Who we can be, unburdened by who we have been.
What can be
We'll watch like two more.
unburdened by what has been.
But now
Where
I'm
we
finding
can
it.
be, unburdened
I'm
by
kind of
where
into
we've
it now.
been, and unburdened by where we are
I
right
feel like
now.
I'm hallucinating.
What can be unburdened by what has
It's like the
been.
more you
Can
hear it,
be, unburdened by what has been.
I'm not, I now believe it.
Are you now in a
Unburdened
trance?
by what has been. What could be
Could be.
unburdened by what had been.
What can be
She's changing some tense.
by what has been.
What can be unburdened
Okay,
by
I'll
what
stop
has
because we're
been.
all going to go
What
into a
can
psychic
be.
trance and get Manchurian candidated in a second. But okay, so that's a thing that Kamala Harris says. Now, let's be clear. You are all, I was going to say smart, normal people. You're not all normal. You're all smart people, and you're all varying levels on the scale between kind of weird and like what happened to you. We're there with you as well. So this is not coming from an external place of judgment. We're all in the scale of kind of weird to what happened to them, you know? What happened to that boy? Reference, if you can tell me the rap song I just referenced, we'll be great friends. Now, to be clear, this is not like a cool or deep thing to say. And I'm gonna tell you what I think this means. Henry can respond. You can tell us in the chat. But to see what can be unburdened by what has been is her way of saying, in a very corny politician way, we should imagine the possibilities of a future disconnected from how things have been in the past.
Yes.
Meaning that if we exist in a system where one thing is currently the case, let's imagine a new future. So like, let's think about healthcare. Let's imagine that a single payer system can be unburdened from the for-profit, privately owned healthcare system that has been. That's all it is. It's her version of a kind of like hope and change thing. All politicians have these sorts of slogans that they use. And of course, there's basically two flavors of political slogans. One is, the gist of it is like, I'm going to make things new in the future. The other political slogan is, I'm going to take things back to how they were. That's basically it, right?
For how
You know?
hyperbolic things are getting, keep in mind, at least on the neoliberal compass, how much this election is about radical centrism. We have the most conservative hedonist matched up against the most liberal cop.
Yeah, that's so well put, Henry. Jesus Christ. That is Brad. I gotta say, that has to be Brad. Please let us know. Someone showed up just to say they did not lick stream. I guess you don't have to, but I would like it if you did. Idiot Carrot said, what economic policies are Democrats running on? Do they have any tax plan, tax credit for home builders, renters, inflation? So, Idiot Carrot, this is the thing. Like, this kind of gets a little bit of what Henry just talked about. Thus far, it's really like a vibes election, and there's not a ton. There was an article that came out, and I think I saw like Emma Vigland retweet this earlier. I think that there is discussion of a formal rent increase policy. So that's like a real thing. There has been discussions of economic policies to help first-time homeowners, and particularly, I think, homeowners of color. Historically, Harris at least, and ideally she's going to have to come up with her own campaign plan that isn't just Biden's. But historically, when she was in Senate, Harris supported Medicare for all when she was in Senate. Harris supported a pretty extreme forgiveness of student debt and medical debt when she was in Senate. So there's stuff there, but we don't know, exactly what else it might be. Let's see. Change the future without restrictions. Let me go. Yeah, Wonder Platypus likes it. So there's some stuff. There's some stuff there. Please like the stream if you're here. Really appreciate it. Let's get to 666. We're very close. We're talking about Satan today, so we need to get to 666. Okay, so that's the thing she says. Okay, to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Very standard. very politicians doing politics stuff, but not for Jimmy Concepts. Because for him, this phrase, and this is his first tweet, which he repeats all the time, is not mysterious. It's esoteric. It's esoteric, guys. Well, let's see. Esoteric meaning. I always want to find the dictionary. Esoteric, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. So Jimmy Concepts is saying that phrase, which we all just intuitively understand because we know what she's doing, we know she's a politician, we know what she's trying to say. In fact, we don't understand it because it's an esoteric code word meant for a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. Well, what specialized knowledge or interest? It's a cult. It's a Marxist and Luciferian incantation, and that's easily seen. It's easily seen, guys. I'm gonna say a thing now, and I'm a humble man. I'm a son of the Great Lakes region. I struggle to ever speak with hubris, but I know that I've read more Marx than James Lindsay. I do. I know that. I know that I've studied Marx with more significant scholars than James Lindsay has studied it with. I don't think he studied with anyone. I know that I've published text that have been peer reviewed by academics that have referenced Marx. And I know that in my last academic job, I taught and developed a year-long course on Marx and Marxism. So I know that stuff. And I'll tell you, for me, seeing Harris say that did not ring any bells. As a Marxist and Luciferian incantation. Speaking of Lucifer, see, I was just seeing if we got to 666 and we haven't. Come on, like the stream if you want to get weird with it. So let's scroll. Oh, go ahead.
Part of the esoteric occult thing is they're tying it to like the hands of Baphomet and the as above, so below. And the thing is, like, so much of that kind of stuff is also like a Christian misrule of like pagan mythology, but also just like even with like if you're someone who's like a Levian Satanist who's into like the esoteric and like all that kind of stuff, the Marxist and Luciferian like yeah, that's just linking things you don't like together with no grounded like context.
Well, it's so funny too, because if you were going to say that someone was legitimately a Luciferian or like doing something Satanist, you're still operating in a theological register.
Right.
It's not like you're acknowledging some weird, dark, spiritual, metaphysical plane, which is completely at odds with someone whose entire deal is materialist and economic analysis.
Yeah, there's also just the conspiracy theorist absurdity of like, and now for the clues.
Yeah, like Mr. Policeman, I gave you all the clues. The idea that Marx spent his entire life and thousands of pages, again, writing about material and economic analysis
as well. So,
guys, we did it. But then we went back down. We did it. We did it. We got there. We're there now. We did it together. Thank you, Jimmy Concepts. I guess that means we're all coconut pilled now. So we'll go through his thread. His next tweet says, what esoteric means here is that it has a hidden meaning. It looks and sounds like goofy nonsense, but it isn't. It doesn't sound like goofy nonsense. It sounds like, again, a kind of cliched, simple political phrase. People who know. That is, it's coded and Gnostic. He just throws words around in ways that mean nothing. He's like someone that learned. Oh, go ahead.
Also keep in mind a lot of like the scary mythology of like Satanist tactics that came about like in the Middle Ages, and the stuff he's referencing was like populist propaganda against like a more agrarian, communist kind of decentralized pagan type class. I know I'm going off the shoulder here, but there's historical analysis about like what happened after the plague and the way that decentralized power and the way that kind of affected like the way societies kind of grew in the wake of all that death, and just like forms of like proto-socialism that were taken out by more consolidated forms of like Christian industrialism. There's like the use of mythology has a lot of historical context to it, and he's just hoping you're scared of Satan.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Jack and Henry's officially Brett now. Jackson said it sounds like he bought a thesaurus. Chris Maverick says, I overslept. Anything going on? Nothing at all. So he says, it's coded and Gnostic in its formulation, and the principle she's articulating is ultimately Luciferian Hermetic a la Marx. Again, the point she's making is that new stuff can happen. That's it. The funny thing as well is if we're really going to go down this path. So maybe what's scary here is she's saying that a new thing can happen, unburdened or unconnected from the past. She's talking about historical disruption, revolution, Marx, Lenin, things of that nature. The coolest thing is if this is coming from a position of people who have this sort of Christian position, Christianity itself, the theory of eschatology, there's so much in the Bible that gets at historical breaks. Like, what does Christ represent other than an absolute shift in time, a shift in temporality? There's before and there's after. There's a revolutionary take on past tradition to create something new. So many of the thinkers of messianism, apocalyptic thinking, revolutionary thinking in 19th and 20th century philosophy, these are people that are riffing off of the Christian tradition. Look at people like, Walter Benjamin, Ernst Bloch, these sort of Marxist Jewish Christian thinkers. So it's all already there. But again, he hasn't read any of these people, so he doesn't know anything. He says the third tweet has a picture that I'm sure he's jayed off to before. Also, you hate Satan so much that you just have this picture ready to drop. We can set aside the hand gesture she typically makes while uttering this incantation. Oh, so when she holds the microphone and speaks, it's a hand gesture. And to be clear, we're not like standing up for Kamala Harris. Who cares? We're just talking about this batshit guy. Although we shouldn't, it's blatantly up on the right and down on the left. Oh, so it's just like that. Okay, so she's doing a Satanist thing. The thought, too, that this is someone who just like went to law school, was a state prosecutor, has done all of this because of their secret esoteric Satanist agenda is so funny.
She's like laughed off questions about like people she's put into really bad sentences for weed crimes, right? Like,
oh yeah. But also too, this is a fun fact for those who don't know. Harris's parents were Marxist scholars. Her dad was a Marxist economist that taught at Stanford, and at one point, her dad kind of like disowned her.
I hope she brings back her UBI policy.
Yeah, no, she toys with the stuff. Let's see. So his next tweet gets into the Marx stuff. So this one says, let's have a look at Karl Marx issuing the same idea. Here he is at the punchline of the Communist Manifesto. Does he think that Dane Cook wrote the Communist Manifesto and has a punchline? Explaining that when the proletariat organizes itself and executes a revolution, it can move forward into what can be communism unburdened by class antagonisms. This dude is doing so much heavy lifting. We'll read the passage in question. He says, when in the course of development, class distinction has disappeared, and all production has been concentrated in the hands of a vast association of the whole nation, the public power will lose its political character. Political power, properly called, is merely the organized power of one class oppressing another. In place of the old bourgeois society with its classes and class antagonisms, we shall have an association which the free development of each is the condition of the free development of all. Classic passage from the Communist Manifesto, which is literally just saying we currently exist in a situation where one class of people has their labor exploited by a much smaller class of people that own the means of production and profit off that. If we abolish that system and create one in which we're all kind of on the level, then what we have is the association of free individuals and not the exploitation of some by others. It's one of those passages as well that if you kind of paraphrase this, most people would agree because it's not that like radical. It's saying that like maybe we shouldn't have some exploiting others. Maybe we should have the free association of all. There's nothing in there that has anything to do with anything that Kamala Harris is saying. Kamala Harris is not a Marxist. She's not calling for revolution. She's not calling for the abolition of capitalism. She's not calling for the rethinking of labor, any of these things. So again, this is just a really weird, like reading into a text. But I guess when you're obsessed with something in such a deep way, you see it everywhere. It's kind of like when you're really hungry, everything looks good to you. Someone said universal basic shrooms. Someone said, aren't the same hand gestures used in painting statues of Jesus? Probably. And in some of the famous paintings of like the Greek Academy, you have a lot of this and that and this and that. let's see.
It's almost
Okay.
like people like raise that hand to get a focus of attention in public speaking.
Yeah. But pay attention to everything I do with my hands when we're streaming, because I'm always giving you guys deep and dark secret code messages. Soldiers attack. Okay. So then he says, here's how Marx opens the Communist Manifesto, though. And these are just like these are all texts that have been discussed so much by so many people. And he thinks he found it. It's like, you know what it is? It's some Da Vinci Code ass shit. It's these people that watched or read the Da Vinci Code and think they can Da Vinci Code everything. They think everything is a Da Vinci Code. But sometimes people just write ideas in a way that's trying to clearly communicate them. It says, here's how Marx opens the Communist Manifesto, though. The history of all hitherto existing society, what has been. Note that he introduces this, is the history of class struggles. That's precisely what he says a communist revolution would emancipate man from is the punchline, though. Oh, boy. He then says, in other words, Marxism itself, in its own manifest declaration, identifies it as being able to move into what can be unburdened by what has been, and socialist Marxist consciousness is a Gnostic awakening to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Straight communism. He hasn't defined communism at all in this thread. A thing you notice as well is people like Lindsay and people like Jordan Peterson, they don't... I'll try to give context, and I've talked about this before. But the Communist Manifesto is a text co-written by Marx and Engels as a pamphlet for workers, right? And it was aimed at workers in a particular situation at a particular time. It was for mid-19th century people working in horrible industrial conditions. It was a pamphlet that was trying to convince them to say, hey, another world is possible. This system itself is exploitative. Let's maybe get together and use our power to make things better, different, whatever. That is not a text that outlines in any rigorously theoretical or economic way what communism is or what Marx's critique of capitalism is. But he wrote those books. He wrote lengthy, more academic and economic text. But the reason people like Lindsay and Peterson and others on the right don't talk about them is because they don't want to read the hard books. They don't want to actually understand things. They don't reference secondary texts written by economists, philosophers, and theorists on these things to help them understand them because they don't want to understand them, right? Like someone like Lindsay, all these people could do that, but they choose not to because that's not what they're interested in. They're not interested in knowledge. They're interested in weaponizing figures they don't understand to induce panic and then create their own little cults. The irony, of course, is what's happening here is way more like cultish and pseudo-religious than anything that Marx ever wrote or said.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's... Yeah, good. Go ahead.
Going back to what you're saying about the Da Vinci Code brain is like, I think there's a tendency to believe like, yeah, I just have to solve the puzzle. And it's a way of mitigating like material action in place of just like, I just got to read the right things and solve the thing right.
Yeah. We'll look at a few more of these guys. We're not going to go too deep down this rabbit hole. We want to talk about positive things as well. We're going to have our buddy Elijah on in a few from Yellow Dot. Again, we have the Yellow Dot video premiering today. So at the end of the stream, we're going to put a link in the chat to send you all of the video. We have Yellow Dot Studios. It's Adam McKay's climate production company. We have a video coming out on their channel today as well. We're super excited about it. They're awesome people. And they're actually trying to use their content to do something positive in the world. Who would have thought? So check that out. And if you're a coffee head, constant reminder that our coffee sponsor is Yes Please Coffee. There's a link in the description. If you drink coffee, you get 20% off Yes Please. If you use our code, they don't pay us to say that. We just like them. Next tweet in this thread of genius, James Lindsay says, a few years earlier in his economic and philosophic manuscripts, Marx expresses the same idea, comparing crude communism to true transcendent communism. It's becoming unburdened by. Note that every time he does these quotes from Marx, he puts unburdened by in brackets. Private property as human self-estrangement through positive transcendence. He doesn't understand the words that he's using here. I could get into this. I know it's annoying to say, like, I could get into this, but I won't. Trust me on this because you at least know I have a background in this stuff. He doesn't understand the words that he's using here. And
Yeah,
again,
is this a
go ahead,
case?
Henry.
Is this a case where, like, at the start of the thing, Marx, sets out terms and definitions, and then uses them throughout the paper, and so this is kind of like a bad faith reading of something defined at the outset?
Well, so it's a bit of that, and it's a bit of the fact that Marx in his time is writing in response to Hegel and the young Hegelians, to Bauer, to Feuerbach, to other people existing in a particular intellectual and philosophical climate. So he's using terms from that philosophical climate. And I don't want to pull something where I'm like, oh, you can't understand Marx if you haven't read blah, 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 blah. But if you are going to, I think you can understand most thinkers reading them on their own terms, but I think it is very hard to devastatingly critique a thinker if you don't understand the context
Yeah, you
in
can't
which they
like
are, because they didn't just follow the coconut tree.
right. You can't understand like a literary movement just reading one of its authors.
Yeah, like you could read a book and be like, this book sucks, but you can't read one book by a romantic poet and be like, romantic poetry as a whole sucks. It just doesn't make sense. And I will say again, like, and I love the economic and philosophic manuscripts. I think it's a really interesting text, but it's another text that he writes before he writes Capital, before he writes an entire economic theory of what's going on here. So the next one, he says, the general theology of Marxism. This also makes no goddamn sense to say that there's a general theology of Marxism. Saying that shows that he doesn't understand theology or Marxism. Is that man is burdened by what has been, which is called historical conditions, but can awaken to his true socio-spiritual self, which is socialist, that it can be transcended. So that's, again, not the point. The point is simply that human history and our understanding of ourselves, our consciousness is shaped by material and economic conditions. To put it very simply, if your material conditions are that you are very hungry, that's going to shape the way you think about yourself and the world around you, because hunger as a material condition is going to override a lot of other things. And then you might want to be motivated to create a new set of conditions in which you're not hungry. You know what I'm saying? We could look at this to analyze certain past movements. It's like, if you're a part of a group that's oppressed on the basis of your race, that's going to affect the conception of your own self-consciousness. We talked about this last Monday when we got into Fanon and political violence. That might then motivate you to want to develop a new set of historical conditions in which you are not subjugated and oppressed on the basis of your race. He goes on to talk about this more, and he drops. Sorry. He drops some
took
more
us past
passages.
777. So
Wow.
yeah,
Hey guys,
we
I
redeemed
want to say that
ourselves.
we've transcended crass Satanism to a state of spiritual enlightenment. So thank you for being here with us on 777. We are spiritually alive. We're spiritually together. We're it, man. I want to see. Okay, so, and then he jumps down a few tweets down. He has one that says exactly the same mentality appears in queer theory, queer Marxism. So no surprise. Queerness is not yet here. Queerness is an ideality. It's a horizon imbued with potentiality. Being queer means being able to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. Like, so much intellectual history and religious history is about this entire idea of a type of, I guess, to use the language he loves, transcendence. What does it mean to talk about transcendence in historical or material terms? Just means transcending a set of existing social, economic, material conditions for something else. Now, when we talk about transcendence in theological terms, it does mean we are transcending the material plane to arrive at some sort of spiritual realm. But, what is history? What is the history of ideas other than progressing towards something like better? And when it says queerness is not yet here, queerness is an ideality. I mean, think about this in terms of any political movement that ascribes towards justice, let's say. The whole point is always to say, true justice is not yet here. It's an ideal which motivates our actions. To reduce it, or to move back from like the political realm, think about sports. I know that we're all a bunch of jocks here, but a pitcher in baseball doesn't pitch a perfect game, but a perfect game is an ideality which motivates their training and attitude as they orient themselves towards a perfect game. You as a romantic partner, let's say, yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Who, me?
You might, Hey, listen, we got a bunch of brats here. But you as a romantic partner might have the ideality of being a perfect, better partner, someone who's ultimately loving, forgiving, whatever. You are not going to be that, but that ideality is what motivates your action. And of course, we could look to religion as a prime example of this. Most religions outline a sort of social practice and spiritual ethic that will not be attained, but creates a practice of striving towards that thing. Now, he goes on and talks about CRT and racism. And then there's a point where he says, and this is a few down, he says, the sentiment Harris repeats endlessly. And is Elijah in the waiting room yet? Okay, we'll bring him on in 2 seconds.
Yeah, how many thoughts did Mr. Lindsay have here?
He keeps going. He says a bunch of really dumb stuff about the French Revolution, showing that he has no understanding. But the last thing he says is, I'll sum up here, though so much more could be said. We're undergoing a global French or communist revolution, which will have disastrous results. Kamala Harris chants the Marxist Luciferian incantation of that evil agenda to see what can be and burdened by what has been. Friends, I'm telling you, we are not undergoing a global French or communist revolution. When we have politicians, there is no politician currently participating in the United States governments that's a French communist Marxist Satanist. This is crazy language that's meant to sort of confirm the biases of people that are already drawn towards conspiratorial thinking. It also, people like this obfuscate the thinking of people that's actually understandable to make themselves seem smarter. You could all just read these texts for yourselves. You're all smart enough to do it. I promise you that. So, important. Someone said baguettes for everyone. So it is an important reminder here, friends, that we need not fall for this, and we need not give power to people like this. I will say we don't need to pull the whole thing up, but I did see that. We can talk about this later. James Lindsay is teaching a workshop called The Evolution of Communism in Dallas, Texas, August 9th and 10th. If anyone wants to go, we should crowdfund someone. If you are in Dallas or you are near the Dallas area, we are willing to crowdfund your attendance at this event. It looks like tickets are $99. It is on August 9th and 10th in Dallas, I think in an airport hotel. Email us at wisecracklive666@gmail.com or leave a comment. This is not a joke. If you are in the Dallas, Texas area and you want to attend this workshop, you got to take notes for us. We'll try to raise the money to send you there so that you can become really smart and teach us the way, the truth, and the light. Guys. Okay, so like I said before, we're putting out a video today we're really excited about. It's made with our buds over at Yellow Dot. We're going to drop you the unlisted link in the chat before the video goes live. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. So please stick around. We're going to drop that. Let's call it like 10:55. We're going to give you that link, okay? But now we want to bring our buddy on, Elijah, who's the head of, I might get your job title wrong as we bring him on, of digital strategy over at Yellow Dot. But Elijah's going to come on now. You're currently muted, but now you are unmuted.
I can hear you.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
I was going to say don't, because then you'll officially be the most handsome person.
No, I look crazy right now.
But, see, whenever someone says I look crazy, I just woke up like this, it's always the person who looks the coolest.
I can't find the button anymore.
Oh, wow. If you do want to find, I think it's at the bottom of this. There we go. Awesome, guys. Heck yeah. Whoa. What does that shirt say?
This is official Yellow Dot merch. It says Peter Kalmus has a posse. Peter Kalmus being one of our favorite climate scientists. He's an actual NASA scientist, but he also has been arrested twice. He's extremely outspoken on the X's and Twitters of the world, and he uses very urgent, very emotional language to describe our current predicament, as opposed to heavily scientific language, which you can also get into. But we like him for being very honest and blunt and telling it like it is. So
well, we by proxy like him. So Elijah, I think yeah, I hope I didn't intro you wrong. So you're like what, the director of digital stuff at Yellow Dot?
Yeah, I do the digital stuff, and I come from like an organizing and climate background. So to the extent that we do organizing or interfacing with the broader climate movement when our content achieves some level of strategery, which sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But I kind of bottom line that stuff.
Wait, so we've obviously told our audience before about what y'all do. We're excited. We're gonna share the link to the video with them in a few, so they get first dibs at it. Give us your rundown explaining what you all do at Yellow Dot.
Well, I think the illustrious Mr. McKay described us well initially as we are an anti-bullshit media studio. And if you look at the this climate emergency that we're in as a whole, there is obviously the fossil fuel pollution that is causing the Earth to heat up, and there are legislators who are in the pockets of big oil, and there is a media that's not reporting it. So there's all these problems, but fundamentally, in a lot of ways, you could argue that the biggest problem is just the bullshit. All the ways that we've been lied to by the oil companies, who continue their sort of propaganda and greenwashing campaign, and they're accomplices to a large degree in the corporate media, not the independent media. But a lot of the corporate media who get advertising money and don't report on really what's going on in a lot of ways, and aren't doing their duty to sort of tell people what's happening, why it's happening, and who's responsible. So so we're creating content that tries to help that message get through in creative ways, I guess you could say, for being charitable.
Yeah. Recently, I kind of feel like your guys' outward-facing content seems, I'm going to use Freudian terms for a second, like the super ego or like ego version of the real like energy you guys have. And then sometimes I look at Adam McKay's Twitter feed and I feel like it's pure id energy. Just someone who's so angry at bullshit. And it is, I will say, it's like inspiring and cool to see someone with so much Hollywood cachet willing to more or less tell it like it is, because we know that a lot of media figures, and especially people connected to the entertainment industry, have a history of kind of like saying the right things and being very political and not expressing emotion and rage. And not to say that like all of our politics and attitudes should be motivated purely by that, but I think it's important. And I think in terms of like that ethos and not creating space for bullshit, it also creates space for, I think, people to feel less crazy, because nothing can make you feel more crazy than kind of feeling like you are aware of what's happening in the world, whether it be politically or, of course, in terms of climate policy and what's going on environmentally. And I feel like the media is telling you that it's actually not the case. So there's almost a certain like emotional or psychic value to making the sort of stuff you guys make.
Yeah, I mean, it's literal gaslighting, it's figurative gaslighting, it's all the things. Yeah, it's very refreshing, from my perspective of someone who's been working in climate for a long time, to just be able to kind of channel that pure emotion that surrounds it. And I mean, that often is the stuff that people connect to, right? It's not the CO2 levels, and it's not, the daily average global temperature, even if it is breaking records and freaking out scientists. But it is that emotional stuff that people are feeling, and that, for a lot of reasons that you obviously get into in the video today, it's not being expressed. It's not being expressed in the media. It's not being expressed in popular culture. It's not even being expressed to a great deal in our day-to-day conversations with each other. And there's lots of reasons that the oil industry has tried to cultivate a culture of silence around this stuff and a culture of normalization, right? And so, but people are feeling these things. They look around, they don't necessarily see other people talking about it, even though, we know that other people are feeling it too. It creates this situation that's, the technical term is pluralistic ignorance. When you, I think the example that they give to describe this is you're in a classroom and the professor's talking and you're not understanding what they're saying. You look around and nobody else is raising their hands asking questions. So you just assume that you're the only one that doesn't understand, when in fact, maybe a lot of other people don't actually understand.
Yeah.
So you have it. So, and everyone else is looking around going, well, it seems to me like everyone else gets it. So I'm just going to be quiet since I'm the only one. So it sort of has this this spiraling, escalating effect. And that's the sort of the culture that we have around this climate stuff, and the whole climate conversation. So
and
we're
just quick,
trying to get it out there.
Yeah, and for anyone who's just tuning in now, we're talking to Elijah Zarland from Yellow Dot. We just posted a link in the chat, so you can subscribe to Yellow Dot over on YouTube. I really like the, I think I'm going to say this right, the Shitty Bank video that came out.
Yeah.
Well, it says Citibank in the top, but on the yeah. So I really like all the. If you guys like satirical takedowns of big corporations, you're gonna love it. So please do subscribe. I have a question for you, Elijah. I'm curious your POV on this. Something I've thought about, a lot of folks have brought up, is with all of the drama and media coverage around the current presidential election. In general, there's been a real dearth of actual policy discussion. But even deeper than that, there's been almost no conversation of climate other than Trump saying that we have the best H2O and the best air.
So good.
So
Such good.
how do you, as a someone who makes climate media and is an organizer and an activist in this space, like, what is your attitude approaching? And maybe we can start here with like a presidential election, like what we have coming at us in the States.
Well, Yellow Dot is a nonpartisan, non-political organization, of course. It seems like the GOP as a whole has done a really good job of making it a partisan issue, because they just have their unilateral stance towards planetary destruction and human extinction. Which many Democratic leaders in a way, to a lesser degree, share as well. But I think just being vocal and public about what are the powers that the president has to set policy, to set the agencies into motion. There's a ton of things that the president can do, and of course, just to set the tone of urgency and set the tone that this is actually something that is a threat to every single person in this country, that creates more global instability, that that affects everybody on every issue that they care about, from healthcare to the economy, that you're talking about energy prices, all this stuff, right? And just our security in our homes. And one of the things we've been doing is, like, each week we've been compiling just a little reel of like extreme weather from around the world, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's happening is like, there was a town in I think it was New Mexico that the whole town was evacuated for a wildfire, and then like a week later there's massive rain and there's these crazy floods and landslides. So it's like all kinds of places are getting hit with all kinds of different stuff, and like in the span of a week they can get multiple different disasters now. So it's like this is a real threat, and the president should be using their power of the pulpit or whatever to lead in that way and communicate in that way. And so just continuing to urge with strong, powerful, emotional language and media appeals.
I think something you say is Yeah, and something you say is so important, that idea that the climate conversation isn't its own separate thing, that it's interwoven with so many of the issues we might consider more immediate. Because I think for a lot of us, sometimes things like, let's say, the health of our planet and the potential or future extinction of humanity um, can seem so existential that we almost don't worry about it in an immediate sense. We might vote thinking more about, the price of housing or transportation cost or debt or all these sorts of things. And I think that realization that all of these things overlap, and that the climate issue, to use nerdy language, friends, is that it's like an ontological condition that's a part of everything, and we can't really separate it out. Again, that's also something that's a little harder to get at, but I think doing the work of showing people that's the case is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly helpful.
Yeah. It, I mean, it seems like, if you want to get into the sort of the deep philosophy and psychology of all of it, it seems like there's just so many people who just want to pretend this doesn't exist, even though they kind of know it does.
Yeah.
And would almost rather live in a state of denial and then just, I don't know, have everything collapse all of a sudden, as opposed to sort of, having this life where you're, preparing and creating better long-term outcomes for everybody, creating like an actual livable future, all of these things. But like, it's a world and a future that is different than the one you imagined, right? But that's going to happen either way. But it seems like everyone just wants to kind of keep the veil on for as long as possible, and then, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like we're all in a relationship with a partner that we know is cheating on us, but we're too afraid to just admit it because that would mean our life would collapse.
Something like that. And
yeah,
but I think in a lot of ways it's like, it's not collapse. Like in a lot of ways, in very meaningful ways, like you get better outcomes for your life. All these all of these systems, be it the food system or the heating and cooling of your own house, like all of these things get better when they're more sustainable. And so it's like, but of course the oil industry, as you talk about in the video, is pushing hard. It's like, there is no life without oil. Like you will die. You will not have sex, and your baby will die in the hospital. Or two videos that you show.
And to be clear, Elijah, he did not just make that up. In the video, we actually posted. There's a link to that video and to Yellow Dot in the chat. Check it out, guys. But the oil industry is literally paid to make content that tells you that without oil you can't go to the hospital and you'll never get to go on dates and have sex. Not exaggerating, even a little bit. And I think, again, something we get into in the video is the depth of the problem and the way in which the fossil fuel industry and the lobbyists around it are like this evil octopus with their tentacles kind of everywhere. And I think sometimes we don't realize the extent of those tentacles. So, one thing I want to ask you before we send everyone off to watch both of today's videos is, because I think in talking about the media, and again, we've talked about this, it's something that comes up in that video, is that, the industry, the fossil fuel industry and its accomplices have such a big influence in the media. Besides Yellow Dot, which, like you said, has been posting these really great videos, great in their harrowing nature about what's been going on climate-wise. But where do you go for news and information on both like climate in general and climate-based policy and problems, where you feel like you can kind of trust what is being said?
For better or worse, all the climate scientists seem to carry on a discussion on the website formerly known as Twitter.
We only call it Twitter. We do not acknowledge the new name.
Okay, good. I love that. So I follow a lot of climate scientists on Twitter, and if you go on Yellow Dot's Twitter, it's We Are Yellow Dot. We have a list of climate scientists that we follow that anybody can follow, and that's a good place to start. And you just you get a lot of numbers, and you get a lot of like, oh my goodness, this is high, and sometimes you don't always know what it means, but eventually, the stuff isn't that complicated, really. And so people who just follow these discussions will start getting it. The Guardian, the Guardian as a major news source does good climate coverage, and they have sworn off fossil fuel. They have sworn off fossil fuel money, and I think their coverage reflects that. I see what's popping on the subreddits around climate and late stage capitalism and whatnot. See what the activist groups are doing and what they're talking about.
Awesome. We're going to roll so everyone can watch these videos. But guys, we posted links to videos, to Yellow Dot in the chat. So go check those out now, and be sure, if you start with the video over on our channel, guys, at the very end of it, we're going to link you over to Yellow Dot to check out a really fun conversation I got to have with their director, Stacy, who was nice enough to come to our humble abode and chat with us about both issues around climate, how we think about it politically, what we can do towards it, and then also got to talk about the work y'all do over at Yellow Dot in some more detail, which is very fun. So everyone, go follow them. Elijah, thank you so much for taking a break from creating potentially world-affecting content to chat with us. It means a lot.
Oh, well, thank you. It's super awesome to have the conversation, and I enjoyed all the side-eyeing, all the chat comments about how I look like a weird John Krasinski. That was cool.
That's honestly, I wish I looked like a weird John Krasinski, better than like looking like a weird John Leguizamo or something. That felt mean towards John Leguizamo. Awesome. We'll catch you soon. Thank you so much. And everyone, go check out all those videos and all the stuff right now. Follow Yellow Dot. Do all of the things because you got to do them because the content needs to stay alive.
You can do them.
You can do it. Guys, that's going to be our show for today. We'll be back on Wednesday. Hit us up then. But please go check out this video now. And then when you go over to Yellow Dot, watch that video, leave a comment, let them know that the Wisecrack Hive is cool and strong, okay? So we'll catch you guys on Wednesday. Please let us know in the comments after the fact if Henry is Brat, and we'll see you later.
Have a great week, y'all.